Hello, we are the military group, and we're going to begin our presentation. So I got the income and social protection. In New Mexico, there's many benefits for income security of veterans and their deceased veterans and their families. They come with many stipulations, however. Any veteran that is currently disabled only qualifies if they were disabled 100% during their service. Only unmarried widows, widowers can continue to receive benefits of military personnel killed in action, and they must have been serving when their death occurred. Children of veterans have the most benefits, with state tuition being waived. However, they only get a $150 book voucher available for them. And this is all on the My Army Benefits website. The social protection, it's geared towards training veterans for employment. On-the-job training programs last 6 to 12 years, and they include things like heating and air conditioning repair, law enforcement, security and corrections officer training, things like that. The one current thing that they have going on right now is called New Mexico Operation Soundstage. And it is a pilot program facilitating veterans to be employed by television studios and movie productions. This is all, like I said, on the My Army Benefits 2020. All of the programs require applications, and benefit requirements must be met before they can qualify. So they have to apply for all of these things before they can even receive any benefits. Okay, we're going to continue.
Okay, so I got education, and in New Mexico, there is an education opportunity in Roswell. NIMI grants high school diplomas and Associate of Arts and Associate of Science degrees. Leadership training is provided to all cadets at the college level through the ROTC program, and at the high school level through the junior ROTC program. That's at NIMI. Many scholarships are available to military service members as well as veterans in New Mexico. New Mexico State University offers state tuition assistance to those in the National Guard. So New Mexico institutes are available to those involved in the military. And I feel like this, or I have in my notes that this relates back to the SDOH of education.
For veterans, unemployment and job security has fluctuated over the decade due to the influx of veterans following 9/11. Veterans are less likely to live in poverty, though, than non-veterans in New Mexico, as in 2016, 7.8% of veterans were living in poverty compared to 17.6% of non-veterans. The median annual income for veterans was $40,279, which is $17,199 more than non-veterans. Outside of those numbers, there still exists disparities, as majority of job insecurities for military members can be attributed to trouble translating military work experience to civilian terms, trouble with getting certifications and licensing, and disabilities for both physical and mentals from serving, as 30.4% of veterans reported disability compared to 17.5% of civilians. As of 2017, 3.3% of New Mexico veterans were unemployed. The veteran unemployment rates have dropped 5 percentage points since 2011, and the state's non-veteran unemployment rate declined more slowly, falling by 2.5 percentage points over the 7-year period. And this just kind of points to, like, New Mexico, their veteran unemployment rate is actually kind of low, and typically they hold more job security, and they're ranked 27th in the nation for unemployment rate.
Okay, so for the working life conditions, it just depends if you're deployed or not in the branch of service you work in. Some individuals do have on-call or civilian jobs, but they remain on call. So they still need to be prepared mentally and physically, and some are rarely deployed, so they do train on base and do other small jobs on there. So with deployment, it comes the risk of death. And when providing care for these individuals, it is important to take the working environment into account. This could lead you to what you need to do. And for the social determinant of health, it's going to be the neighborhood and environment.
Okay, so for food insecurity, what is food insecurity? not having access to adequate and nutritious foods that is affordable. Many military families struggle financially. For the first 2 years of service, enlisted personnel make just $1,600 a month. Although it was found that 15.3% of active duty members struggle to feed their families by a military family advisory study in 2019. Food security screenings were introduced in 2017 by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Of those that are active duty, 25% of them rely on food pantries. As nurses, we need to know local resources, food pantries on base and off base, government assistance like SNAP and WIC and cash assistance. A lot of military personnel, they travel and relocate, and they don't know where things are located. So we need to know where to send them. And this goes back to the SDOH of economic stability. And then for housing amenities and the environment, New Mexico has 4 military bases that consist of mostly Air Force bases. White Sands Missile Range is the largest base at 50,000 acres. Military housing is privatized, which consists of 400 homes in 4 different neighborhoods. Balfour Betty communities manage the homes for the military. They have landlords just like if you were renting a house, and they address concerns like maintenance, repairs, and handling rent and bill issues. They also have a tenant's bill of rights, and it states that military personnel have the right to report any unlivable conditions. They have the right to privacy, the unlawful increase of rent and decrease of services. Tenants also have responsibilities for the upkeep of the house. And there's a website that you can go on to, and it'll show you where they can view videos of houses that they can rent whenever they're transferring. And this one goes back to the SDOH of neighborhood and built environments.
Hey, so I had early childhood development. So there's actually not a ton of research done on early childhood development. However, what there is that has been done, there's 4 main factors that affect that. So that's going to be deployment status and like the number of parents enlisted. Both of those, you're going to see increased behavioral symptoms in children, especially in those with both parents deployed. And then the parental mental status as well leads to, difficulty coping with stressors as they age and stuff. And then the parental age, children with younger parents are at an increased risk for neglect. And we see that a lot with military. They get married young, they have kids young, all of that stuff. And then all of this is going to lead back to what we had talked about earlier in this semester with Erickson's. So depending on when they get deployed at the age of their children, that's going to affect whatever developmental state they're at. And this just connects back to the SUH of social and community context.
Okay, so social inclusion and non-discrimination. Military culture is not usually discriminated against. On the contrary, they're usually praised and readily included in community discussions. Military members are usually held with a lot of respect, and they're sometimes expressed small tokens of appreciation by the community, such as discounts, vouchers, and free upgrades from economic to first class seats on airplanes. Discrimination against military members is rare, and it's not usually heard of. However, the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act does protect military members by ensuring that they will be hired or rehired in civilian jobs. This means if they have a civilian job and they go away because of deployment, they're able to come back and have that job, or they're able to get a job without risk of the employer not wanting to hire them because they know that they might be deployed. Discrimination within the culture itself is actually more prevalent, and it's typically seen with female service members and service members who identify with the LGBT community. This all relates back to the SDOH of social and community contexts.
Okay, so I had health service accessibility. Health insurance is available for those in the military under the TRICARE plan, military members and their families, National Guard, reserve members and their families, survivors, some former spouses, and Medal of Honor recipients, as well as their families, are eligible for the TRICARE plan. There are multiple plans available depending on who you are and where you live. Something interesting is that there is a plan finder questionnaire on the website to find which plan can be curated for the individual. Health insurance is available for those who are currently active, which those individuals are characterized as sponsors. Family members, as said in the above bullet, also receive the care. The New Mexico VA healthcare facility is located in Albuquerque. As of March 2016, each VA facility has a local LGBT veteran care coordinator. On the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs website, there is a search engine relating to the state. So wherever that individual is located, they can find doctors that is provided a doctor that is provided to them because of their service. So each plan is very specialized and unique to the person and family unit. TRICARE serves approximately 9.6 million beneficiaries, and this relates back to the SDOH of healthcare, and that relates to who they are and what they've served and how well they get the healthcare plan.
Okay, and then we have our need to know points. So assessing the importance of patient culture, ethnicity when planning, providing, and evaluating care. This we related back to the SDOH of the health service accessibility and healthcare. So we just have to understand that not all service members and their families have the same level of coverage and access to programs. So you have to take that into account when you're planning your interventions and stuff. Recognizing cultural issues that may impact the patient's understanding and acceptance of psychiatric diagnosis. And we related this back to the social inclusion and the social and community context. So in the military, there's this tough mentality, which really battles with the prevalence of PTSD and high suicide rates in veterans. A lot of people aren't willing to go get help because they think, oh, well, I've been through war, I don't need help for psychiatric stuff. And then incorporating patient cultural practices and beliefs when planning and providing care is going to go back to your housing. Constant moving is going to make continuance of care really, really difficult. And so making sure you can coordinate that effectively is really important. Respecting cultural background and practices of the patient, that's going to go back to all five. Something we thought was really important is not making comments in regards to their deployment and moving around and financial status. So comments like, oh, well, I could never do that and leave my family, stuff like that. Evaluating and documenting how patient language needs were met. We related this back to the working life conditions, which is going to go back to the housing and the neighborhood and built environment stuff. You have to consider a lot of veterans have hearing loss issues, and so just taking that into consideration when you're communicating with your veteran patients. And then we have our citations, and that's it. Thank you. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of discuss.
So I just think it's all this information is so important for us to know as nurses, just to be able to deal with the different types of personalities that we're going to see.
Yeah, and military, it's all over the country. It's not like one specific spot you're only going to see military, like it's everywhere.
I thought
Yeah.
I thought the important need to know, or one of the important, okay, hold on. The need to know point that popped out to me was the one about culture effects on a psychiatric diagnosis. I feel like that's not something that people always think about with culture, but you think like, oh, how would that really affect someone based on how they were growing up or how their family looks at them now, or, I feel like that's not touched on a lot naturally.
Yeah. And like going back to the families and stuff, I mean, it's not necessarily specifically the service member who's going to have psychiatric issues. It could be, the kids or the spouse and stuff.
Absolutely. I hadn't even thought about that. I was just thinking the patient specifically. I completely didn't even think about the family, how they suffer as well.
Yeah.
Ashton, your slide said something about the LGBTQ doctor. Now they have a specific doctor. What was that about? I didn't know about that.
I found that on the military website and on the VA website local to Hobbs. So it said that now they're trying to implement that. And I think now that they're just trying to be, before I feel like it wasn't that like open. And I feel like now they're trying to not be like that. And they're trying to provide for everyone, no matter who is in the military culture. So I think that they're just trying to have a provider ready for everyone in every facility. Even if, I mean, I said in my slide that it's in Albuquerque, which is far from for us in Hobbs, but I feel like that's someone there for them. No matter how far it is, someone is there for someone in that community as they're in the military.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because when I was reading on the website for New Mexico, myarmy.com thing, there was a whole, like, the beneficiary can be my wife, or if I was a man, my husband, and they could still get benefits even though we're a same-sex marriage. Like, their marriage is legal and their insurance coverage and all those benefits include them in that.
Yeah, and I
Something else
think
that
that's
I found.
really. Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead. No.
Something I thought was like really cool whenever connecting Laura and Ashland's from like the stigma to the education is that veterans actually, there's a higher rate of people that have like degrees. So 32% of New Mexico veterans have a bachelor's degree compared to 25% of non-vets. And I know there's like a kind of like a stigma as like veterans are like kind of like meatheads, like tough, like they just want to do like physical stuff. But like looking at the statistics, it's actually the opposite of that. They're more educated.
Yeah. And I think that leads back to, the fact that they have the opportunity, like Ashlyn was talking about, they have the scholarships and stuff to be able to do that. And I think a lot of military members probably wouldn't if they didn't have that kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was doing my research, I found that there was pros and cons for living on base and off base. If you lived off base, the military would give you additional money to cover for rents and stuff like that. And if you were struggling to get food and stuff like that and tried to apply for like WIC or something, the government assistance, they would kind of frown upon you living off base because that income that you're getting to pay the rent is income that they're accounting towards that. So it would disqualify you from getting food stamps. And so I found that interesting.
Sounds like it's tough being tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to add?
Nope.
Alrighty. Sounds good.
Thanks.
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 Bye.